Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started.
Do you want a real agenda?
You mean I have a fake one? Oh, this is just the timeline. Nothing's coming up on my screen, so I'm gonna. It was fine when well, it is, but it was fine before whatever. The light's on.
But nobody's home.
But nobody's home. Forget it. Okay, so off we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's Monday, May 24th, 2021. The time is 1:04 p.m. Special meeting agenda to continue our fiscal year 22 budget deliberations. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Hearing none. Business and potential action item, fiscal year 22 budget delibs to include discussion of economic indices and how they relate to the B budget expenses and C budget, which is capital. Dina, will you lead us, please?
I will. Thank you very much, Chairman Filios. So today, we're going to take the first bite of our deliberations apple. We're going to talk about the B budget and where we're at with that, and then we're going to dive right into the C budget. But before we do that, you'll notice that I've changed a few things here. I sent you a summary this weekend, but as you know, things change rapidly. So I've popped in that 8% cap as our funding. And I've also added an ARPA funding line. That's where the yellow square is. You scroll down just a little bit. So right now, just under 7 million. But if we scroll down a little further, I've added some enhancements here. So we attended a meeting with IAC last week to talk about possible uses for the ARPA funding. So I tossed a few things out here. Now, this is all very preliminary, but we will be working with our group to figure out if these are applicable. We're pretty sure that we can use ARPA money for these items. So Panhandle Health, right now, we're giving $830,471 of tax money for our regular contribution. We could subsidize that with ARPA money. The 469,125 you'll see in the capital summary, those are capital items that have to do with HVAC systems, which are very likely going to be eligible for ARPA funding. The green items are the general fund items that county assistance pays for with the non-restricted funds. Those can be covered by ARPA funds. And then the purple ones are all community support that fall under the ARPA community support definition. So a little bit of goodness there to kind of help lighten the load. And as we learn more, we'll be able to let you know other things that we might be able to cover with the ARPA funds.
Okay.
So I'm going to hand it off to Michelle. She's been doing some work looking at our indices. Last year we looked at fuel and lumber and all these things. So she's done some work and has some summaries to talk through with you.
All right, so taking a look at Opex, I mean, first off, this graph just kind of gives you an overview of all of the expenses, and you can see, like, under the BOCC, I know it's really hard to see, but you can see where the 2022 is the middle part. It's the orange, kind of orangish color, and you can see where we're trending for all of the elected officials. So the BOCC in this case kind of came in between 2020 and 2021. And then the sheriff and everybody else, for the most part, except for the treasurer, stayed up above what they have asked for in the past. So any questions on that? Does that make sense?
This is everything.
This is all expenses. This includes personnel, Opex, and Capex.
So just an overall view, and note that the medical and the 2.5 for possible raises is not included in that. These are just things that are in the system under expenses by elected official.
Okay, so let me just look at the sheriff for a moment. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly. The upper blue,
The
and
upper ribbon?
it's kind of faint, or the
Yeah.
upper ribbon, yeah, the highest most point is 40, can't quite make it out,
It's 38.8 million.
okay?
And then that's for this year, that's 2022. And then for 2021, it was 34.2 million. And then for 2020, it was the 33.5 million.
Okay, I see what you're doing, all right.
So between 2021, you can see those two bottom, or the middle and the bottom, it kind of swings up and down, but the highest is right now is the 2022.
Okay, understood. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So the next thing, we kind of broke it out so we could take a look at Opex. And this is where the commodities kind of come into play. Kind of want to call out 4 different items. One of them is being gas and electricity. For 2022, for fiscal year 2022, we don't really see any changes. So unless you want to drive, within the department's conversion efforts, or conservation efforts, right now I don't foresee any changes. Everybody has been really, I think, pretty steady as far as, taking a look at what Avista has reflected in their stuff and seeing the trends throughout. It's just the actuals that have been happening are pretty much about the same as what's being budgeted. So I don't foresee anything big happening there. Ammunition, looking back at some of the stuff that I've been able to find on trade associations, as the country goes back online from the COVID efforts, factories are starting to step up and production is increasing. We're actually starting to see at Black Sheep more and more ammo showing up there. So I don't foresee the prices will start to come down as people stop hoarding as well. So we should see some, that leveling off as well. Lumber, they're expecting that to return to normal levels as well based on some of the forecasts that I'm seeing out there, especially as housing demands start to drop off. And they really expect housing demands to really drop at the end of 2023. So I know the budget doesn't cover
Your
it yet.
input is invalid.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're done. Sorry. Gosh, what was that? Geez, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
So for inflation right now, what I've been able to find that the CPIU has been increasing. It has increased 3.9% in April. Food prices, they're expecting to increase. Energy prices are going to be jumping, but that is largely related to fuel. And then the other index for all items, food, energy rose, or less food and energy rose about 2.7%. So that is going to have some impact overall on the budget in the sense that, all of the end results, whatever we buy that is, has, say, fuel included in it or lumber included in it, we're going to expect to see some increase in costs associated with that. So the graph at the top gives you kind of an idea by elected official where you're seeing expenditure, the Opex, budgeted Opex falling. So, for example, on the very first one, which is the BOCC, you can see that the 2022 amount is greater than the other 2 years that we took a look at. And then some of them, like you look at the treasurer, the coroner, and assessor, it's pretty much, they're pretty flat for the most part. For Capex right now, most of it's falling under the BOCC or the sheriff. There's a few in there, but overall it's been pretty pretty light, I guess, or not a lot of change, I guess, on that part. But looking at this year, it's kind of coming in a little bit below, well, actually, we're coming in a lot more, actually, from in 20, well, no, let me back up here. 2020 was a greater amount, and 2022 is coming in below that. So we're coming in significantly below.
And that includes solid waste, correct?
That
Because that's
includes solid waste.
2.3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is solid waste, okay, yeah, okay.
Yep. Personnel expenses, as Dina mentioned at the outset here, this does not include the 2.5%, or 2 million, sorry. So you can see again on this one, the sheriff's leading the charge as you to be expected, and 2022 is the bluish-green band, and you're seeing increases basically across the board. A lot of that's driven by last year's decisions as well as mid-year changes.
So nothing really out of the ordinary.
Where is district court judges reflected? Is that under the BOCC?
It's right here under district court.
Oh, I see that one, but the first one was
Right.
not, didn't have it.
Clerk has the district court clerks in it.
Okay,
And that's, that's a lot of the growth in the clerk too, is just.
Can you go back to the B side?
District court lands right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
go ahead.
So from what we've seen with the B budget, pretty much everyone's followed the same trends as what we're seeing in the commodities. And we kind of did a backdoor zero-based budget this year, having people justify their expenses down at a very low level. So the only real jumps that we're seeing in the operating budget are driven by our non-capital items because now our threshold is up so much higher.
Okay,
So that jumped from 5,000 to 10,000. So you're seeing more items landing in that B budget rather than in the C budget.
okay.
So, before we jump into capital, any questions?
I'm fine.
Okay, I have a feeling this meeting is going to be fairly short. What our goal is this week is to give you a high-level view of capital, personnel, and revenue. And then we start whittling away. We know that we're going to get the new growth numbers. June 7th is the date we heard, new growth. So what I did was I just put in 8%, hoping that, 90% of new growth plus our URD closure would be about that much. URD is separate from the new growth, but we'll see how that shakes out. But we're basically taking the line that we would take our new growth and our 3% and put that in there.
Okay.
So this is kind of small. We might want to make it just a little bit bigger. So what we've done is we just listed everything out by org set like we normally do, and then I just did some color changes just to kind of be a barrier by department. So in the first section is building and grounds. There is a pickup and a riding lawnmower in here. That together are about, 42,000? So I think Greg is here.
Nope.
Was here? To talk about these items.
Okay,
There are several vehicles in here. I don't know what the board's appetite is for vehicles at this time, but I think we have another one with AMP. I think AMP has a vehicle. Community Development has 2 vehicles. So maybe we should just isolate the vehicles. Maybe by account number? Or account description? Oh, it's not gonna do it? Okay, okay.
go ahead.
of course, we have year 3 of the sheriff's vehicles. That's 700,000, so that final lease payment is this year, this upcoming year. Yep. And then we know that solid waste is self-funded, so. Okay. So those top 3, pickup, riding lawnmower, a couple of Ford Escapes for community development.
So, community development's been waiting in line a long time. And I think they're just to the point where they need those vehicles. So I'm not ready to
Okay.
cut those. They've been dealing with old black and whites, which if that fills their need, then I suggest we just make them all one color. But
They did get one last year, I think, right?
I don't know.
Didn't they have
I don't know.
one where the wheel fell off?
That was a few years ago, but I think they got one last year.
Yeah, so we'd have to look into that further. But I guess when we're talking about vehicles, next year it'd be nice to have everything run through fleet management and only fleet management recommendations come forward. So,
And if this is the third and final payment on the sheriff's vehicles, that's money potentially saved next year.
no.
Right.
I recommend highly that $700,000 goes to the sheriff every single year for vehicle replacement. That was my intention in the first beginning,
Oh, you mean when
because
we
they
have to
haven't.
renew the leases again?
Well,
No,
we're not
they'll be
really
paid for.
So we
Go
bought
ahead.
lump sum 25 vehicles, $2 million. Okay, we paid for them over 3 years.
Right.
Going forward, my intent always was to have that $700,000 move forward year to year for vehicle replacement.
Even though we buy them back for $1.
Right, but those 25 vehicles are now 3 years old.
But they're running 12 to 15,000 miles a year. I mean, I
Okay.
realize they're abusive miles, but go ahead.
Right, but that still only buys a certain amount of cars. I think it buys maybe 7 or 8 cars.
Yeah, because they're
I think it's
expensive.
like 7 now,
Yeah.
but you have to think about
They're
wear
gonna be
out.
inflated.
The fleet-
Replacing.
This
Okay.
is, this is why we did the leases, because they got so far behind. So
Absolutely.
we had to buy a
Right,
bunch up
right,
front.
right.
So I'm assuming that we would want to get with the sheriff and talk about what the replacement schedule should be so that we're consistent.
They
and we can
actually
pay
have
cash.
one. Yeah, and that's my goal, is to pay cash every year for those vehicles. So it won't be 25 every year, because 25 is not their total fleet. So now the other ones are probably 6 to 8 years old. Those are the ones that'll be,
Okay, so you're going to be
Or
buying
handed down.
somewhere between 6 and 8 vehicles, something like that. Okay, I get it, okay.
And some could be handed down too. That could alleviate some pressure from the other departments as well.
Okay.
right, that's what I was also waiting for, is the list, once all 25 vehicles got on board, if Sheriff Fleet Management had any to circulate throughout the county.
Now, I think that Building and Grounds got 2 pickups mid-year.
Yeah, so Craig, you want to come talk to us about cars and trucks?
And lawnmowers,
The lawnmower, we're trying to replace about a 12-year-old lawnmower. We use it for mowing, plowing, everything. And it's starting to make some noise, so it's gonna go bad. The truck, we're just trying to replace an old plow truck. And it would get rid of 2 trucks, actually, 2 vehicles, if we get one new one. So,
Okay.
what else do you need to know?
can we scroll down to Fund 11? Because there's probably some bigger stuff in here. There we go. So that blue band there, Fund 11, a lot of that stuff we think we can use ARPA funding for.
Right.
So, and these are all heat systems. Is there anything I'm missing? So I noticed there was something down below in sheriff that said something about HVAC, but I think it was a repair item.
There was a mini split.
Yeah,
go
I have the
up,
mini
you just-
split marked, but there was
Okay.
something, was it?
Mini split for OEM.
No, I thought it was for
There it
the.
is. So mini split I have on the list, but it says, there it is, SO jail contracted repairs, HVAC. Yeah. So do you know the detail around that? Is that just repair or is that a replacement?
That one I'm not sure of.
Okay,
I don't remember seeing that one when we did our budget.
okay. Well, this is,
Well,
I think this is in the jail side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we can reach out to Tom on that one and see if the character of it would qualify for ARPA funding.
Yeah, if it's a mini split, that's probably a replacement,
Okay,
because that's about what they cost.
okay. Great.
I don't know, the skid steer, I'm still up in the air, but we don't have Tom here to speak to it.
I mean, I know they could use one. They have a big loader out there that's, they got from solid waste many years ago, and it's gonna start costing money to keep it going.
Okay.
So it's kind of one of those replace before it goes completely bad.
Right.
What's the kitchen water isolation?
It's to the hot water isolation on that one. I know about this. It's to keep the hot water in the kitchen so they still have hot water in the showers and everything. It just kind of keeps everything to a minimum.
So are we replacing an item? Is that it?
It's not really replacing, it's just kind of isolating it, making it part go to the, part go to the kitchen and part go to the showers and things like that.
What do we do today?
What do we do today?
Yeah, I mean, how do we accomplish that today?
Oh, yeah, without Tom here, I can't really tell you that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm wondering if this is like a new equipment installation or if
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, I think it's some new equipment and some remodification of some piping.
We should probably flag that so we can ask Tom.
okay.
What was your hope today, Dina?
Was hoping maybe we could get some cuts today.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
flag that one. I don't know, without Tom, I don't want to be
Okay.
hasty.
Should we also put that on the
Yeah.
skid steer?
Well, I mean, everybody's gonna have an argument why they need something.
Sure.
So it's just a matter of, is there an easier, better way? I mean, can we contact solid waste to see if they have any skid steers that they're getting ready to, do? Airport has a whole bunch of items that they're getting ready to surplus.
Yeah, and he doesn't need a brand new one. If he can get a used one, he'll be fine with that, so.
Sure.
The other part of this too is if you wanted to fund some of these things out of fund balance, we could mark those and adjust fund balance usage. Let me just go back up to
Well, in that case, probably would go to IT, because there's a whole bunch marked there. IT fund balance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 items that I see. So we can put those in fund balance.
Okay, so, from Omentum, what is this? Omentum Tax and Assessment,
Yeah, that's not,
website platform,
yeah, that would be for fund balance.
I don't think Omentum.
See, it's all in parentheses right there in the description, the request, which ones they have
So it
marked
starts
for.
with website platform.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think you can see whose it is.
How many items? 5?
I count 7, I think.
Okay.
All the way down to,
6.
yeah, all the way down to on base, down to the blue. Yeah. 10.
So that's fund balance?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure I'm fine with all the things that are marked in blue, the first chunk, under all the HVAC stuff being essentially put in the ARPA line item.
Okay.
The thing that I really, really want to stress, I mean, first of all, I'm not 100% on board with taking the money because there's just, the strings aren't outlined. However, I want to make sure that we are not putting anything in ARPA funds that is ongoing. And if we do put it in there, we need to make sure that we have a tax backup for it. Because in a couple years, I don't want all of a sudden to be stuck with, you know, not a way to fund our ongoing operation. So I just want to make sure of that. So tell me, since you're still here, Greg, about your pickup truck. What happens if we don't fund it?
We'll basically be down to 2 trucks, so if we have a breakdown, we're kind of not really gonna have much of a backup.
Right, and you
And
got to
if-
be plowed by 7 a.m.,
Yeah,
right?
and that's kind of the issue, and especially now that we're not sure if we're gonna be doing Post Falls again or not.
Okay,
So that makes, a 3rd pickup would be really nice to have. to do
sure.
that.
And how you, yeah. And if you have a breakdown, you're not gonna be able to scramble before 7 a.m. to scrounge from someone else, okay?
Yeah, so I'd prefer to keep that one, and I don't know, I want, I'd like to be able to like have the sheriff's 700 to have, you know, 100,000 or something for vehicle replacement. That's only 3 vehicles. So I'd like to have that ongoing funding too, but once we get fleet management up and running to the way that there actually have criteria and input that we could do that. Okay, you got $100,000, what's gonna rise to the top this year?
So then, is it fair to say that any mid-year vehicle requests would be denied, and it would just be fleet management?
Well, it could go through fleet management to get to us.
right.
Because like when the community development had 2 breakdown, then they got Crown Victorias.
Right.
So, yeah, I just want to have a better process where fleet management is doing all this. So I don't have to sit here and say, Greg, do you really need a truck to plow? I mean, goodness, we had 55 inches this year. Now, I'm begging for 110 inches next year. So I really want to fund that truck. So,
Yeah, we need a single avenue for the purchases, yeah.
yeah.
The other part of it too is, it just occurred to me, is considering the cost of maintenance of vehicles for plowing, have we explored a third party that we maybe contract?
Yeah, I don't mind going out to bid for that. However, I think you lose some control, and if
Yeah,
they
you
don't
do.
show up, they don't show up, and we can't have that kind of liability at the county.
And given the way everybody's flat out with this economy, to have to depend on a contractor.
Okay.
We might save money, but if the work doesn't get done, we have a bigger problem.
And I think Transit Center had that same issue, so.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so. Okay, what else here? So, I think I'm fine with
Okay.
Greg's stuff.
Yeah,
I
I'm
want to
good.
talk to the assessor about some stuff. With the Aumentum stuff, is that ongoing? So we really should be thinking about a tax source instead of just fund balance?
I want to make sure I understand Commissioner Bela Kovacs, assessor for the record, what your question is. I'm not sure I understand your question.
Which line item is that?
Aumentum tax and assessment process fixes, 4th down.
The 50 grand item there, that's highlighted.
It's an IT item, but is this something where it's gonna be an annual cost, or is this a one-time cost?
I did talk to Matt Snow a little bit about that, and I can't speak to whether it's an annual, I believe it's going to be an annual cost, but he did indicate to me that there is a need, there's a loss of institutional knowledge, and there are some system fixes that need to be done. That number, 50,000, he's not even certain that that's the number, he's just spitballing.
Placeholder.
Should we talk to Matt? Or are we okay?
Well, my question, I know they need it. So we just have to discuss
Yeah.
if we're gonna fund it from tax dollars or fund it from
Yeah,
fund
from fund
balance.
balance. Okay.
Yeah, so that's my only thing. Hey, anybody on the line, if you can mute yourself until you're called on, thank you. So that was my question, and that's okay that you can't answer. So to me, we have to keep it as tax funded and not fund balance at this point. Jennifer?
Be off on this, but I believe the assessor has some restricted funds
Right.
and fund balance. Is there any money that could be used toward that? I know a couple years ago, we used it for a project or
Cars.
capital.
Yeah, they bought cars, and I think they bought something else too. Bela, do you,
I know there is a fund
Okay.
that can be used for assessment purposes. Whether that can be used specifically for this, I don't know. We'd have to look into it.
good, right, now I remember, right. So the cars and the other books were assessment, were on the appraisal side, and this is kind of on the calculation side. Does that make sense?
I guess we could talk to legal.
Sure.
There's $669,000 in the.
In that fund?
46.
Okay. Do you know if you have any requests for that fund?
I know that the need for the system is something that's shared by the treasurer's office as well as the assessor's office.
Okay.
Can you rephrase your question one more time?
So I think we'll look into it. Essentially, just what I'm looking at is your restricted fund balance. Is that something that can be used for this particular purchase?
I would agree. We'd want to talk to legal.
Okay.
Okay.
But apparently, there's no other items that you've asked for this year that are slated to come out of that fund.
Correct. Not this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are needs, though. There are needs building.
I don't doubt it. But the one big need that we had talked about previously, I wonder if that fund, if the restricted fund would be able to go towards some of it.
I don't know we'd want to, it's significant. I don't know that we'd want to tap into it. to that
Right,
extent.
maybe ongoing costs or something, but we can further talk about it.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
So you flagged that one, Dina?
Yep, it's flagged.
Okay.
We'll reach
Thanks,
out to-
Bela.
We'll reach out to legal. All right. So we're leaving the top 3 vehicles alone. You want to do 2 vehicles for community development? Do you want to cut that to 1?
Without talking to David, I just want to make sure. I mean,
Leave it at 2 for now.
this hits about the amount, 80 to 100,000, that I would like for fleet management for ongoing replacements.
So part of that fleet management would be to purchase X amount of vehicles for the fleet management pool.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd go that far yet. I'd need to know more and get some kind of regular trickle down, I suppose, before we do that. Yeah, so I'm fine with it right now.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Okay, definitely the K-9 vehicle has to stay.
Yep.
That's old.
So those 2 go together.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I would love to see if we had a trickle down from the sheriff's department, but I don't know that we're gonna know that yet. So,
In preliminary talks with Keith Hutchison, he didn't think that there was anything available that would fit the need.
right, and I think he talks to their fleet management,
Yes.
so, okay.
So the 3 items, they're in 2 lines. The 3 items for, I think it's airport. I can't see 'cause it's, yeah, it's airport.
Right.
So there's a pickup, there's some air stairs for the pickup, and together those 2 are 50,000, and then a snow pusher cupping plow, which is his 3rd priority.
Right,
And we would use, if you said it was all right, we would use their restricted fund balance.
the problem is, I think that they have that earmarked for projects. So I want to be careful that we don't double count their restricted funds, and I keep asking Stephen, please give me an outline. Please tell me, you've got almost $1 million in there, what's it slated for? Because the sewer was gonna be 900,000 alone, so.
So we have some questions still out to airport, and some of the revenue and expense numbers have been moving, so we're
So
coordinating.
what are the air stairs?
It's
that
for
the
small
board?
jets,
Small jets, that's what I thought.
yeah. So then, yeah, that 200,000 definitely in the ARPA category, which you moved. Whose paving project?
That's $500,000.
Yeah. Oh, that's the fair, but they changed it. Didn't they lower their ask? It's not 500,000 anymore.
They did lower their ask.
We haven't received anything from them.
Okay, so I will go ahead and say, as a placeholder, do you remember what the amount was? 120, 140? Bill, do you remember?
I do not.
Okay, so
Thought it
It was-
was 120, but I don't.
120.
Maybe flag it
Put
and
put
we'll reach out
150
to
in and
Alexia.
Yeah, but you can put it, yeah, I
put
mean,
something, put 150 in, and it might be lower, but
right. But 150 would be a fine placeholder. I'm not sure we're ready to cut that today. We got a little bit more
right.
stuff to do.
And then I think the last four are Nick's, where he had requested assigned fund balance be used for those four items.
Okay, fine.
No, we can't use assigned fund balance. Oh, I'm sorry. BOCC fund, I mean,
Yes.
general fund balance.
Yes,
Right.
general assigned fund balance.
Right.
Yeah, except I don't think the 40,000 CXT, I think that was vessel account.
Okay, go to the left. Yes, that is vessel.
Okay, so that won't be assigned, but the other three things, yes, and we're looking at potentially getting those trees removed this year, so then that'll be another $12,000 taken off.
Just put vessel here. So the tree removal, do you want to cut that?
No,
We
where's that?
can't
Is that
yet,
at
I
the
mean,
cemetery?
that's at the cemetery.
Yeah,
Can't cut that yet,
Leave it?
yep,
keep it.
Do we want to make a
Yeah.
note, just say pending?
yeah, that's fine. And so that would be like our last cut in July or something, because
Okay.
he'll know fourth quarter if he's gonna have funds to cover that. But that's a safety, and that's an issue he has to take care of. And then the roof, I mean, we're just playing with, do we want to replace interior stuff too, if we don't get that roof on there?
Okay,
So,
all right. So we have a mobile morgue trailer for the coroner, 58,446. We are looking at some grant funding for that.
okay. And then, Dr. Keen,
right.
question for you. I think we briefly might have talked about it, but it's not clear in my head. Had you contacted the other, like Shoshone and Bonner and everything about pitching in at all for a trailer?
I had talked with Alana at Panhandle Health.
Right.
And she wanted to have a Zoom meeting to see if they had any money for that.
Okay,
My guess is they're such small fiscal that they probably aren't gonna have a lot.
right,
We did talk to Rick Smith and Shoshone, who borrowed the second district's
right, Lewiston's trailer, right,
trailer.
and it worked out.
Worked out very, very well. He said
Sure.
it was awesome at that point in time.
Okay,
I've contacted this morning the IAC to see if there was any funding available, and I think it's the same ARPA type stuff, to see if it would cover any of that as well.
okay.
Resource management is looking at some things to see.
Oh, I was just gonna
Great.
ask you that. Okay, fine.
So depending on, and I think I have it in here, depending on the size, I've been thinking about that because we've towed trucks and trailers for our whole business. I'm not sure that the truck you have is actually going to be able to tow that trailer. So can you check into that for me, please? Because you've got tow ratings on.
What size truck do you have? Is it a half-ton?
It's a Yukon, which I think is on the same half-ton
Yeah.
chassis as the other vehicles and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you may need a 3/4 to 1 ton depending on what the max gross weight is.
Do you know what the weight is on that?
I'm looking here, because I have some of
I
the,
gave you I didn't bring those with me.
That's okay.
As far as the weight and that kind of stuff.
right.
But it's
220
essentially
refrigerator.
fully insulated with generators and electrical equipment trailer, and then to be able to haul 15 to 16 decedents.
Yeah, I mean, if you just use a general 200 pounds, that's another 3,200 pounds
Right.
to add on top
Right.
of that. So I'm thinking you're gonna need a bigger truck, so.
I mean, we got this through your generosity of fleet management last year to haul all of our stuff around, and it's working excellent. And so I don't really want to put in for a $85,000 3/4 ton pickup. If we have this trailer, which I think we absolutely need to have, we can easily go to any of the rental places and rent a 3/4 ton
Oh, that's
pickup
true,
to
too.
haul it.
That's true.
And then that's only, maybe $1,000.
Right, Okay,
That makes sense.
as long as
Yeah,
we're thinking about that,
Fair enough.
so.
Okay, good.
All right, so then I guess my question would be, we'll just flag it and get down the road, because if we can do ARPA or,
This grant funding.
grant, yeah,
Specifically for exactly what he's asking for, the grant is.
okay?
All right.
So the next two items are enhanced 911, which are restricted funds.
Have those been moved yet? To the restricted funds?
Well, they're in the budget as an ask, but they haven't been funded yet. So
Okay.
you'd have to tell us if you wanted us to use their restricted funds to fund those. And right now, let's see, this is also in your binder.
They have 777,000.
Here we go, yeah. Yeah, they got 777,000. So that would cover it, but depleted.
Right.
So are you all in favor of?
I'm okay with putting that over now, because I understand what the asks are for, but I'd want to talk to Colin to see what kind of replacement's coming, what kind of replacement in that fund.
Okay.
All right, so when we spoke last, IT was gracious enough to do a little research for us. So right now, the sheriff is asking for this executime payroll automated timesheets, which for the sheriff's office would be $100,440. Our IT team was able to negotiate a price for the entire county for $134,606. So is that something that the board would like to entertain? We just do the whole county at once?
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I'll leave it in
because
for
of-
now.
Okay, we'll add that in. We'll add that extra 34 in.
Except I would want to know, are we going to save personnel time? I mean, is this going to cost us a body? So that's,
I don't mind speaking to that. As a former payroll manager for a very large corporation, you've got payroll inflation. And what that means is by putting people on an electronic timesheet and setting up rules, they can't bypass that. And at that point, as well as you are following state and federal standards, and nobody's gonna be able to come back to you, or it makes it more difficult for people to come back and have lawsuits.
sold.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Right, it's in. Terrific. Okay, so capital lease we spoke of.
What's the ongoing cost every year?
You're recurring?
Was it 6? I think I can find it. Hold on.
It's probably in the non-capital portion. It might even be in the forms.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we know what that ongoing is. And then can we use this as part of IT? Because it seems like a countywide thing,
We
so.
would put that in IT. Is this something that you want to use the signed fund balance for?
Well, that's what I want to know, what the ongoing cost is.
Let's figure,
So-
let's determine that first.
Yeah, and then I want to talk to James to make sure that that's not.
Well, and if you can't look it up now, don't sweat it. Just
Yeah.
make a notation that let's verify it,
Okay,
so that way we can come back to it.
okay.
Okay, so the,
The lease we're in for
right,
another year.
obviously,
Yep,
okay.
that's an easy one.
Yeah.
First year architectural fees?
For detectives, I believe that's in the work release center.
Sure. So Sheriff, do you want to speak to that? If you'd like to come up to the podium, we'll ask you the question. Has to do with the architect fees, architectural fees.
Yes, so there's a proposal to move the work release from its current place at the Pierce Clegg Building to the Public Safety Building. And that is the purpose of that.
Swapping with the
Increase.
detectives, getting the
Correct.
detectives over
Yep.
there. So I'm okay with leaving it in for now, but understanding there's a $1.4 million price tag that's gonna come next year. And what I don't wanna do, okay, by the end of June, beginning of July, we will have a better understanding of countywide long-term planning. So,
I think that's a great idea.
yes, so I want to leave this in for now, however, knowing that depending on what that long-term study shows, it might get cut. So, we'll just
Understood.
let you know. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it, but I'll leave it in for now. Phil?
Thank you.
And then there's some jail maintenance items. So I'm assuming we probably should go to Tom about these and have him
Yeah,
perhaps
just noted,
prioritize
yeah,
them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll have him
prioritizing.
prioritize those.
Yeah.
And then there's some, what is this? Stuff for the kitchen.
Okay.
So dynamic imaging, correct inmate tracking system. And then there's a freezer for the outside jail yard and a tilting steam kettle for the jail. So,
Well, I guess when Tom comes in to talk to us about the other things that we can
this is jail
address those.
ops.
This
is
j-
jail
Jail
operations.
operation.
Right,
So this is tracking inmates.
but
Captain
he
Deke.
probably still has stuff to do with it, and so we can have a captain come in as well, I suppose. But to me, I mean, you have to have a freezer, you have to replace your steam kettle. I mean, those things are not necessarily, wish list. To me, they seem more necessary. The dynamic imaging, though, I would want to know more about that and what the ongoing cost is, which I'm sure I have that in my book. So. Anyway, all right, are we just about at the
We're
end?
just down to solid waste, which is covered by enterprise funds.
Yeah,
We can
yeah,
look
they're
at the
covered.
items.
Right.
I know just from talking to Lorraine that, with the influx of people moving to the area, it's kind of sped up their
Yeah.
their landfill operations as far as,
When the tonnage
Building out.
increases at 4 times the rate of the population.
I didn't see anything in there that was frivolous either, and since they have the revenue and the funds to back it up, I'm fine with that.
Yep. Okay.
so it sounds like we have a little bit of homework to do. We'll circle up, and then on Wednesday, we'll be talking about personnel. I'll have updated personnel numbers for you. As I get those done, I'll send you the summaries via email so you have time to look at them before the next.
Okay, cool.
And then we can follow up on these items too in the next meeting. But what our goal is to get our deficit whittled down so that when you go into BOE, we're pretty much done. Which
That would be
great.
nice.
Which would
Yeah.
be great. It'll make your summer a lot brighter.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to seeing what all this shuffling has done to our bottom
Yes,
line.
this will help our bottom line. with
Where
some
were
fund
we,
balance.
5.7 coming in today?
Yes. Well,
Well-
I think we're at 6.9. Go back to the.
It was
Oh,
6.
6, where did I get 5?
Because she
Because
went-
of the ARPA.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but once
So-
again, we just have to be super careful with those ARPA dollars.
Yes, and we'll learn more about that. So we really have to go with the 6.6 at this point until we know on the ARPA
Understood.
stuff.
When would we know that, by the way, realistically?
Never.
We're waiting on the US Treasury.
Oh, my
It could
goodness.
take a
Yes.
while, but we did get a communication from IAC. They're meeting with Ide Bailey, and Ide Bailey is going to put some guidance out for the counties to
Okay,
help us.
okay.
And we will be getting our group together, and we've been assigned an attorney, Pat Braden, to look through all the documentation, and we'll put some guidelines together and bring those forward to you and give you an idea of what the group feels comfortable with using the money for, because if we use it incorrectly, it's bad.
Understood.
Make sure we keep you on the right track.
Okay. Anything else? Not for me. Public comment.
Anybody on the phone, public comment?
Hearing none, 1:52, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.